Grab your coffee, kick up your feet. It is time for another edition of Yahoo Sports Daily, coming at you for the next couple of hours, hanging out with you on YouTube, hanging out with you on TV channels everywhere. You can hang out with us at yahoosports.tv. She's Caroline Fenton. I am Jason Fitz. Let's have ourselves a hump day. All right, Caroline, let's get right into it. It's time to start the show like we start every single show with 3 points. What is on your mind, my friend?
Absolutely. Let's get into it. I hope that your morning is going better than Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's. So that's a very high bar. But the latest with Micah Parsons and the Cowboys, I'm sure that's the first time you've heard that over the last month or so. But the Cowboys head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, spoke with the media on Tuesday. He wouldn't get into any details about what he and Micah Parsons talked about in a meeting following the preseason game where Micah Parsons was laying on the trainer's table. But he did share that we shouldn't expect a full workload from Micah Parsons right away. He said, quote, "At the end of the day, as soon as he can get out there, that's great. But again, there will be a ramp up plan for him." He went on to say, and when he lines up there to go out and play, do I think he would play 75 plays in every play? Probably not. I don't think that's real. But I do think that he can be very disruptive, like we all know. And yeah, that's great and all. But the Cowboys opened the season at Philadelphia. They're playing the Eagles week 1, the reigning Super Bowl champions, a divisional game. And their star defensive player is going to be in a ramping up period? Are you crazy? And this just adds another layer to the Jerry Jones of it all that just frustrates me to no end. This is just another reason why Jerry Jones negotiation practices are so damaging. Not only does it cost him money, not only does it sour relationships with players, and those are 2 really bad things and 2 really big reasons why I think that Cowboys fans should be incredibly frustrated with Jerry Jones. But also, as you're seeing here, as Brian Schottenheimer just laid out, it's hurting the Dallas Cowboys on the field. If Micah Parsons is in a quote-unquote ramping up period, if he's on a pitch count or whatever that means, however you want to interpret quote-unquote ramping up period, do you think the Cowboys are going to be able to stop Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley and one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the National Football League without Micah Parsons at 100%? No, I don't think so in the slightest. So it's just another chapter in Jerry Jones continuing to hurt the Dallas Cowboys, this time in an on-the-field capacity.
Well, and to that end, Caroline, I will remind everybody that if the Cowboys miss the playoffs by 1 game, if this ramp-up takes the first month and they don't look like themselves, all of this has consequence. We won't know the full consequence of Micah Parsons sitting out this entire preseason until we see what happens throughout the course of the entire football season, which is going to require a lot of hindsight and 2020. All right, let me get to my first point of the day. We've got a starting quarterback in New Orleans. Huzzah, people rejoice. And we now know that Spencer Rattler will be QB1 in New Orleans. So what does that mean? Well, it means the quarterback they already had on the roster beat out a quarterback they drafted in the second round. And Tyler Shuck was expected by some when he was drafted in the second round to have an immediate chance to start. In fact, if you watched any of our Yahoo Sports draft coverage, you would have seen that we were told by insiders and by great minds like Nate Tice that the organization was high on Tyler Shuck from the get-go. So now the question is, did you burn a second-round pick? And I think it's a fair question to start asking, not because Tyler Shuck didn't win the job. Okay, second-round pick didn't win starting quarterback job. There's no reason to panic over that. But when your second-round pick quarterback is 372 years old, now you have questions, right? Like they knew they were drafting a quarterback that had seen a lot of college football. It is rare that you draft somebody, and when he's drafted into your locker room, he's already older than many of the big-name starting quarterbacks we talk about in the NFL. Guy's 26. So now if you suddenly think that there's going to be a developmental period for a second-round quarterback, that's fine. But we have to bring this back to the context of the draft conversation we had when he was selected. The Saints have a bad roster. This is not breaking news, and it's not a hot take. The Saints stink. So the question is, was it smart to waste a second-round pick on a quarterback that needs development, and by the time he does develop, he's going to be too old to have any real legs on him? I don't know how it's going to work out for Tyler Shuck. And you could say, hey, over the course of years, they have many years to get this right. And that's true. But in this immediate moment, when the Saints are likely competing to be the worst team in the NFL, Let's remember, they have a real shot at the first overall pick next year in the draft, a draft that is expected right now to have several quarterback prospects. So if they turn around and they're the worst team in football, will they address the quarterback need with first overall pick? Likely, that would make sense. If they do that, they've already admitted 1 year in. We're not even in a year in to Kellen Moore. They will have already admitted that they failed on a second-round draft pick. I don't like that for the future of the organization. I didn't like the pick when it happened. I like the pick even less now that Tyler Shuck isn't going to be on the field week 1. And if you're telling me that Spencer Rattler is supposed to be the person that gives New Orleans faith that the season can go better than expected, I'm not buying it. This just shows you, again, that the Saints didn't have the right long-term game plan before they ever put in the card for their selection in the NFL draft. All right, from Saints quarterbacks to our top story of the day, and it comes to somebody that, frankly, Saints fans hope could be their quarterback in the future, Arch Manning. Okay, so we've got Texas taking on Ohio State this weekend. Everybody knows that. First time in history, we have a 1-2. Yeah, look at the people are rejoicing. Caroline and I are going to be on one all weekend. Like, just the thought of waking up Saturday and having this matchup is incredible. But Texas
I just bought
Arch Manning,
have you ever heard of a walking pad, Fitz? It's basically just like a
one
mini
of those walking treadmill things? Like, yeah,
yeah,
I've got a walking treadmill, yeah.
I bought one for college football season, so I now have more than like 500 steps every Saturday, because if you think that I'm leaving the house on a college football Saturday when we have Texas, Ohio State, and LSU, Clemson, and Florida State, Alabama, you are sorely mistaken. So I got to get my steps in somehow.
A couple of years ago, I bought one because I was on this kick where I decided that the Raiders only lost if I sat down during the game, and I just standing for 3 hours. Not that I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. And so I bought the walking treadmill, and I started walking. So I walked the entire Raiders game. I'm going to try this. If I walk through all of college football Saturday, my legs are going to fall off. Arch Manning said something that caught our attention. We could show you the quote. We will. But I want you to hear it from the Longhorns quarterback himself. Check this out.
Are you mentally prepared to have that huge X on your back all season long where everybody is going to be coming for you?
I mean, I think that's all of us at Texas, and I think we kind of try to shift the narrative. We're going for everyone else. Target's not on our back. We got a red dot on everyone else.
All right, so he says right there that they're not the hunted. They're not being hunted. They're the hunter. And it raises a question here. Hunted or hunter, right? And this is the whole premise here. We're going to look at some of the best teams in college football, and we're going to figure out, are they the hunter or are they the hunted? Is everyone going after them, or are they going after everybody else? Caroline Fenton, when I say Texas, are they the hunter or are they hunted?
They're the hunted. And look, Arch Manning can say that all he wants, and that's probably the mentality that they should have in that locker room. That, look, we're the hunters, that we still have something left to prove. And yes, that's true, because Texas has yet to win a national championship under Steve Sarkisian, but they're the hunted. Texas will always be the hunted. Even when Texas hasn't been to back-to-back Final Fours, even when Texas doesn't have a quarterback with the last name of Manning, they are still the hunted. Even when Texas went through periods of mediocrity at the very best, they were still the hunted, because they are still the Texas Longhorns. They are still one of the most valuable brands, if not the most valuable brand in all of college sports. It is still Texas. Even when they're not very good, they're still the hunted, and especially when they are the number one team in the country and they have some of the best odds to win the national championship, and their quarterback's last name is Manning. Man, they've never been more hunted, at least since, the Vince Young years and the Mac Brown years at Texas. They've never been more hunted than they are right now.
I love the way you did your math. If we were in high school, like having to do our math exam, I love the way you did your math.
Work.
But you came to the wrong answer. You missed one important thing here. They are the hunter because Texas has not done anything. Like, the running joke when you cover college football is Texas back? In fact, I did a couple of interviews with different radio stations yesterday, and every single one of them asked me, is Texas back? Back to what? I mean, at some point, we have to look around at Texas and just be honest about who they are. My buddy Mike Golick Jr. always talks about the year that Notre Dame lost to Alabama in the national championship game. When they walked off the bus, they knew the game was lost. Why? Because there was just a swagger to Bama coming off the bus, and you looked around and you thought, man, I don't know how we beat that. There was an intimidation factor. While Texas is a national brand we care about, while they are one of the most talented football teams in the country, and they have a name at quarterback we all love, that's led to absolutely zero accomplishment that will have anybody else in college football intimidated. The question most people ask in college football isn't, is Texas back? They ask, when is Texas going to blow it? And until they do otherwise, I don't see any reason they could be hunted when, in fact, they are just hunting. Until Texas wins a natty, they will always be hunting the level of relevance that they think they have as a brand. Let's do this whole exercise as we get through the rest of, let's go through some more teams in the top 10. All right, so over the course of the show, we're going to hit a bunch of teams. I want to go next to the number 2 team in all the land because I think we both agree. At this point, Penn State, according to the AP poll, number 2 team, Penn State's got to be at this point the hunter, right? Like I just said, Texas hasn't won anything. Like James Franklin, until you win the big game, James Franklin's going to be cursed by the fact that he hasn't won the big game. Like there's no way anybody's hunting Penn State, right?
Well, they're the hunters, at least when we're talking about in the national conversation. Sure, if you're Minnesota or Michigan State, you are hunting Penn State. But in the grand scheme of the big boys and the national championship contenders, Penn State, I think, is probably the poster children for being the hunters, because that is the big gray cloud kind of hanging over James Franklin in this Penn State program, is the fact that they haven't won the big one. And that's not just the national championship, but they haven't been able to consistently beat Michigan and Ohio State and the powers that be in the Big Ten in the national conversation. Even last year when they were in the college football playoff, sure, they were able to beat SMU and they were able to beat Boise State, but when it came to beating Notre Dame, they couldn't do it. So I think that Penn State will be the hunters until they can prove otherwise. But I also want to be fair to Penn State, that you and I both agree they're both the hunters. But from a Penn State fan perspective, what do they have to do to change that narrative? Is it national championship or bust? I just talked about how I think that Texas is the hunted. They haven't won a national championship in 2 decades. So if we're going to be fair here, should it be national championship or bust? Does Penn State have to beat Michigan and Ohio State in the regular season for us to change our perspective on them? Do they have to get to a national championship to change our perspective on them? Because I don't think it's necessarily fair to say, well, in order for Penn State to be the hunted rather than the hunter, they have to win a national championship, Fitzy.
I think they have to win a playoff game against a significant brand. And that, like, I know that sounds like such a cop-out, but let's be real. You and I talked about it last year. Beating Boise and SMU was just going to get them the love of, or like just the pressure of, yeah, but it's Boise and SMU. Who cares, right? Like, unfortunately, I think the only way you change this narrative, you're right, some regular season wins could help. But if they get into a playoff matchup against another significant brand that's considered an equally dominant team and they get just ran out of the playoffs, then this narrative continues. I think James Franklin needs a significant win against a significant program in the college football playoff. We need to be talking about them in the national championship conversation for any of this to change. But I do also believe that at some level in college football, although I don't like it, I do think at some level you don't truly become hunted until you've won it all. Like Andy Staples pointed out to us on this show that until Harbaugh won it, he had that, well, he can't win it. Until Ryan Day won it, he had that, oh, I can't win it. Until Kirby Smart, right? Like, so James Franklin is just next in a long line of coaches that has to win it, and then immediately the entire team becomes hunted. What about the one of their Big Ten rivals? What about Ohio State? Is Ohio State hunted or the hunter?
They're the hunted. They're the reigning national champions. They're Ohio State. They're the hunted. Even pre-national championship, they were the hunted. To everyone not named Michigan. Look, that is the other gray cloud hanging over this program, that they literally just won a national championship in the first expanded college football playoff, and their road to getting there was tougher than anybody else's in the field. Yet we are still talking about, well, can't beat Michigan. Well, they won the national championship, and they beat the only undefeated team in all the land in Oregon, and they whooped that butt doing so, but couldn't beat Michigan. And that's not to say that we view this national championship with an asterisk. Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But that's still exactly what everybody is going to say, especially Ohio State fans, especially Michigan fans, as, well, couldn't beat Michigan. So they are the hunted, but they are still hunting the Wolverines.
Yeah, and that's why, to me, they're actually hunters, and they shouldn't be. Like, I can't do anything about Ohio State fans' mentalities. I've tried. I was talking to a radio station yesterday in Dayton, And the question was, how will we view this season as success if they can't beat Michigan? And I said, like, what the hell? You just won a national championship. What are we talking about? Like,
Doesn't matter.
People tell me all the time, I don't get it. And let me be very clear. I understand the importance of your rivalry. I just don't care. Like, at some point, coaches are going to be hired and fired, and they put banners in the rafters based on championships, not based on beating your rival. Like, if the best argument you have is, well, we beat you last year in our rivalry game, but you didn't win a national championship, you're a little brother. That's what Michigan is right now, because they didn't win the national championship last year. They're a little brother. If you're an Auburn fan and you watch Alabama win the Natty, but you try and turn around and trash talk an Alabama fan because you won the Iron Bowl, it just shows that you got your sights on something too small. I understand that Ohio State fans don't want to hear it, but they are going to be hunters because Ohio State fans just can't relax. I don't remember ever seeing a fan base win a national championship and seem so unappreciative of what that moment means simply because they lost a game to Michigan. Understand that because of the changes in college football, the rivalries you care about so much have been devalued, and you can't change that. So you can either be get off my lawn guy complaining about your championship because it didn't include a win over Michigan, or you can just, I don't know, rejoice the fact that you are the defending national champions. Ohio State should be the most hunted team in the country because they are the defending champions. But instead, they're the hunters because their own fans can't stop, relax, appreciate a championship because they're so worried about a game that doesn't matter against a rival that we won't remember in 10 years. Most of the college football collective, in 10 years, they'll ask a trivia question of who won the championship last year. The answer will be Ohio State. And not a damn person outside of Ohio will say, yeah, but they didn't beat Michigan. Like, that's just the dumbest argument in college football. I'm sorry. Just
but that's what makes that
times.
rivalry. That's what makes that rivalry so great. That's why I think Ohio State and Michigan is the best rivalry in all of college sports, because that game means, I'm not going to say just as much, but means just a skosh less than a national championship. Can you believe that? A regular season game has just as much, just nearly as much weight as a championship, as a banner, as a ring, as the history books will be remembered until the end of time. That's how much that rivalry means. And you can say that Ohio State and Michigan fans are crazy for that, but it's not changing anytime soon. And that's what I think makes not just this rivalry, but college football so great, is because those regular season games matter so much. And a championship matters the most, period, point blank. There's no debating that. A championship is the most important thing. The second most important thing is beating Michigan.
Does a national championship actually matter more? Because I keep talking to Ohio State fans that want to remind me about Michigan, and I don't care. You know who cares about rivalry games? The people that have no shot at anything else. Like, if all you've got is your rivalry game, then you care a lot if you win it. For years, Vandy would do anything to beat Tennessee. And if they beat Tennessee, it was the biggest deal in the world. Why? Because they were Vandy. And that's what you do when you're small. If you're Michigan State, you desperately need to beat Michigan. Why? Because that's the only thing you can go to your fans and say, yeah, but we got it this year. Ohio State, programs like that, they got to do better and be better. They are about national championships. And I know people tell me constantly that I don't get it. I want to say it again. I understand it. Hell, I've been to these rivalry games. I've been on these campuses. I've been around all of it. I understand it. But I just think everybody has to change with the times. Let's get one more in real quick, too. Clemson, what do we think? Clemson, are they hunted or are they hunting?
They are hunted in the ACC because they are the powers that be. They're the kings of the ACC, that they have been the big guys in town in the ACC really for the better part of Dabo's time at the helm at Clemson. But they're hunters nationally. Because I think with Clemson, as far as they're concerned, we have two different conversations, right? I think that they're the best team, at least right now, from what we do know. I think they're the best team in the ACC. Miami, show me something differently. But they are the kings of the ACC. But I do not group Clemson in that same group of Texas and Ohio State and Penn State, some of the best teams right now nationally in college football. I would view Texas in a different light than I view Clemson. Now, if Clemson goes out and wallops LSU week 1, then obviously my mind is going to change. But from what we know right now, I view Clemson just a little bit lower. So I think they are the hunted in the ACC. They're the kings of the ACC. But nationally, I think Dabo still needs to prove that this game has not passed him by. Winning a national championship this year, at least getting to a national championship, beating LSU week 1, running the table for the better part of the regular season will be Dabo's way of kind of dunking on everybody that thought that he was too old school, wasn't willing to embrace the transfer portal, that his approach to building a program and building a team is not antiquated. So they are hunted in the ACC, hunters nationally.
I love your argument, and actually you've got me thinking about it. But here's the one thing, because I agree with you, they're hunted in the ACC. I think they're still hunted nationally for now. I said earlier that, what does Penn State need? They need a win over a landmark program. If Penn State goes into the college football playoff and just absolutely smacks around Clemson, I think the street cred that they get from that, the media cred, the fan cred they get from that is still very, very real. So in my mind, there's still an element of hunted because of what the brand has meant to the last 10 years of college football. Now, I think a year, like if Clemson goes to the playoffs this year and they do get just shellacked, that changes all of it. But for right now, right on the edge, I'll still put them as hunted nationally, even though I agree with you that we are really close to that changing the tide. What about Georgia? Let's get Georgia in here. But Georgia, last time I checked, Georgia just feels like they are forgotten. We don't have to pay licensing for that. It was only one word. For Georgia, are they hunted or are they the hunter in this situation?
Like, why does it feel like they're the hunters? Like, why? I think that Georgia and the way that we collectively as a college football society feel about the Bulldogs is the perfect example of our short attention spans. It was not that long ago that Georgia won back-to-back national championships. Also, hello, everybody. They won the SEC last year. They beat Texas in the SEC championship game, and Texas is the number 1 team in all the land. And we're talking about Texas like they've got, they're on cruise control to the national championship game. Like, Georgia lost their starting quarterback and lost to Notre Dame in the college football playoff. That wasn't enough for us. That's enough for us to say, Georgia, we're not worried about them. Georgia, we're past that. Like, why is that kind of the mentality that we have about this team? Like, they are, in my opinion, they should be the hunted. They are Georgia. They are still big, bad Georgia. They are, in my opinion, still squarely in the conversation of having continuing their dynastic run. But for some reason, it feels like they're the hunter. And I don't think that's fair. But let me just say, that's exactly where Kirby wants them. That is exactly where Kirby wants the national perception to be about Georgia. Oh, we think they're the hunters? Perfect. Kirby doesn't have to manufacture any bulletin board material because it's already right there. And it is crazy that a program feels disrespected when they're the number 5 team in the country preseason. It's crazy, but that is the case. It feels like they are being disrespected a bit, Fitzy.
They should be hunted. They are hunting, and it's all because people love heroes and villains. And so for the last several years, we've made it Georgia versus Alabama. And now because Alabama has slid, it feels like in some ways Georgia has slid because of it. It makes no sense. I'm not banking against Georgia this year. I would not want to be hunting Georgia because you're right. The dogs are going to have some dog in them. All right. From college football to the NFL, we get some big news over the course of the day yesterday. Dillon Gabriel, QB2. We'll break down what it means next on Yahoo Sports Daily. The U.S. Open Honeydew cocktail set another sales record this year, $12.8 million. That's more money than the men's and women's winner and runners-up took home in prize money, a combined $10.8 million. Incredible. That from the great Joe Pompliano, who joins us now, host of Yahoo Finance Sports Report. Joe, we appreciate your time. As a lover of honeydew, I just have to ask, why? Why is this drink so popular?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's been happening now for almost 20 years, but I think it's probably one of the most successful sports partnerships or sponsorships of all time, really, because Grey Goose is actually the company that invented this along with the US Open. They started in 2006, 2007, and it really started small. I mean, they were selling a few thousand, but over the last 4 or 5 years, with social media really exploding about the growth of it, they're doing 550,000, 600,000, probably more this year. And that's a huge business for them because they're $23 a pop, which is obviously not cheap to be expected at a sporting event. But the thing I always think about too is like most of this is probably profit. I mean, that drink can't cost more than $1 or $2 to make, considering they're probably getting the alcohol itself for free through the sponsorship. So this is a very lucrative business for the U.S. Open and has continued to grow over the years.
Man, I just can't imagine, the Sunday scaries that you get after you check your bank account after ordering, a couple of honey juices, because that is not a cheap drink. But I do want to get into why we wanted to bring you in here. The real reason why you're here, other than the fact that we just love hanging out with you, the YouTube TV and Fox negotiations that are still ongoing. Break this down for all of us who might not be experts in the sports business world. What is the holdup, and what could this potentially mean for YouTube TV subscribers like myself?
Yeah, I mean, the way this works in the simplest terms is that the content providers have these deals with the distributors and they expire every year, every 2 years, whatever it might be. And they go back and they negotiate at the table, and each side obviously wants more out of the arrangement. The content provider wants more money, and the distributor either wants more content or more streaming access or different things like that. So this actually happens like every single year. Anyone that has YouTube TV or Charter or any of these other services knows that every football season or before major events, I mean, this happened on YouTube TV right before March Madness and the Masters with CBS, of course. So the way these deals works are the content providers know where their strongest content is, where their most valuable content is. So they set these deals to expire right beforehand, hoping that the customers can put a little bit of pressure on the distributor to give them some more concessions in the deal. Now, the way this typically works out is that deals usually get figured out before the events. If you're YouTube TV, obviously, you want this deal figured out before Saturday with Texas and Ohio State and then the NFL the following week. But because you don't want to lose customers. But if you're Fox, you also want this deal figured out because that's millions of potential viewers that you would lose for those games too, hurting your advertising relationships and other things like that. So I think this will get worked out in time. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that traditionally the content providers, the people that own the content, have all the leverage here because they own the rights and they're essentially accessing or redistributing it on YouTube TV. But with streaming now, there's more options. So if you think about the email that YouTube TV sent out when this was announced a couple days ago, they actually said, hey, if this doesn't get figured out, go sign up for Fox One, Fox's streaming service. And the reason they're doing that is because Fox doesn't actually really want you to sign up for Fox. They want to keep you on cable. Fox is for people who never had cable in the first place or already cut cable, their streaming service. So this is something where YouTube TV is totally comfortable with using that in their negotiation tactic because they know that Fox doesn't really want you to go do that. And my guess is, look, Wednesday is the deadline today at 5 p.m. If it doesn't get figured out today, maybe the channels go dark for 24 or 48 hours, but this will most definitely be figured out by Saturday at noon, which is when most people want it to be figured out by.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Sunday Ticket. How will it impact? As somebody that has Sunday Ticket, I understand that this could limit my local Fox, but what's the impact to Sunday Ticket?
It shouldn't really have any impact on Sunday Ticket. That's sort of a different distribution feed. But yes, it could impact the local networks if Fox was to be taken off. Again, I think this is one of those things where like Texas and Ohio State is big enough. I mean, that game's going to do a tremendous amount of viewership. So they're certainly going to get it figured out by then. But if they didn't have it figured out by then for some odd reason, it would definitely be figured out by NFL season. They're not going to be losing NFL games. They're paying billions of dollars for these rights every year. They want to maximize viewership because they're hoping to make all of that money back when it comes to the advertising rates that they're able to charge for these games. If you're losing multiple millions of viewers for these games due to a relationship fractured with YouTube TV, that's going to have a significant impact on the math behind these rights deals. And that's something that Fox is going to want to avoid. So I understand people are concerned. I've seen this online. They want to know about Sunday Ticket. They want to know about NFL and college football. 99% of the time, this is going to get worked out. And I think this is one of those opportunities where they'll figure it out before Saturday.
And YouTube put out a release that I think some subscribers thought was a little bit off-putting. Basically, well, if we don't get things worked out, then you can subscribe to Fox's streaming service yourself and, basically clean our hands of it. Your kind of thoughts on maybe the laissez-faire approach that YouTube kind of had with that release? Obviously, how they feel internally could be very different from the external messaging that they put out. But what was your reaction to the press release or the release that YouTube TV put out?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, YouTube TV is in sort of a tough spot from a communications perspective because on one hand, you have customers that you're trying to assure that everything's going to be okay and you don't want them to cancel. But on the other side, you're in a negotiation with Fox, right? That's potentially worth billions of dollars in the long run. So you don't want to say one thing that's going to impact that negotiation, and you don't want to say something else that's going to anger customers and get them to leave. So I think, look, they did the best they can, which is offering people a $10 discount if it's not active, or saying you can go subscribe to Fox's streaming service if you want access to the games. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think this is really going to matter. It's something that they have to do just to warn people as part of the negotiation tactic too, of saying, hey, look, go sign up for Fox's streaming service. Again, because they know that Fox doesn't actually want you to go do that. They want you to stay on cable because they get paid more money through the affiliate fees than they do from the streaming service. They don't want people to leave that bundle. So I think this was just another negotiation tactic by YouTube TV to say, hey, we're actually okay if this doesn't work out. There's other options that you can do here. People are going to get upset. Some people are going to cancel. But in the long run, again, I think this is going to get figured out. And it's going to be something that will continue to come up next football season, potentially before March Madness or the Masters again, whenever CBS's deal runs out. But this is nothing new. Fans at this point are accustomed to seeing these arguments shake out right before the biggest sporting events.
Joe, why do I need YouTube TV? Like, now that we have the ESPN Fox app bundled together for $40, I can use Roku to get essentially all the other free channels that I possibly want, or any of the fast services, and I can get my local through free digital. Like, as a YouTube TV subscriber, I'm sitting here looking around saying, why do I even need it in the modern sports landscape as a sports fan?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer is just there's so much, there's such a big problem around discoverability, right? Like if I wanted to, I could go in and I could sign up for all the different streaming services. I could cancel during off seasons. I could try to game it a little bit to get discounts and all that kind of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, most sports fans are just tired of that, right? And for me, I have a lot of the streaming services. I have Amazon, obviously, for Thursday Night Football. I have Peacock. I have Netflix. I have YouTube TV. And I'm probably wasting a lot of money. But that's sort of the world we live in at this point because the cable bundle, the disintegration of that has become so difficult for sports fans. And I think if you look at ESPN and Fox, what they did with the streaming bundle, like even if you get that, you're certainly going to be missing out on some other stuff, whether it's CBS or other things like that. And when you look up at all these other services, the way that sports rights have been fragmented over the years, it makes it nearly impossible for a sports fan to be able to do this for less than, I don't know, $1,000 a year. You need all of the different services, or otherwise you're missing out on certain things. And when it comes to the NFL, I mean, think about the NFL. They have 5 or 6 different media partners right now, even if you include the NFL Network or Netflix or Peacock. The way that they've distributed these games is that you need all of these different services. And the streaming services know this too. I mean, if you think about Paramount, they just did this UFC deal because they know that's going to bring in additional subscribers and they know it's going to keep churn lower. But what they're going to do now is they're going to go get other sporting events too. They're quietly becoming another player. That's another streaming service on top of all the other ones that you would need. So it's frustrating as a sports fan. I wish there was a better option for it. But at some point, when you have this bundle up top, it gets unbundled, then hopefully someone else will figure out how to bundle it all back up together.
Yeah, which is called cable. I mean, I keep telling young people that I want one place that's guide that gives me everything that's going on.
Cable wasn't bad.
You are describing cable. Like, this is where we are. Joe, always appreciate your time and your insights and your brilliance. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Joe Pompliano giving us all the info we could ever ask for. And yeah, like I will credit many years ago, Clay Travis, before Outkick even existed, did a breakdown as cable was starting to disintegrate on why it would eventually become more expensive not to have cable than it would be to have cable. And here we sit 10 years after he tweeted that. And what do you know? That's the exact.
I don't even know how much I spend on streaming services. I was like, okay, yep, sure, sign me up. Maybe don't tell my accountant that, AKA my dad.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's good to have an accountant. I'm cheap. So YouTube TV You're skating on thin ice at the end of this football season. Dillon Gabriel is not skating on thin ice. Why? He's QB2 in Cleveland. We'll tell you about it next on Yahoo Sports Daily. This is where we play the song "I Told You So" in the background because rookie Dillon Gabriel has been named the Browns' backup quarterback entering the season. Head coach Kevin Stefanski announced Yahoo Sports Daily, "I am taking a victory lap. If I had a horn, I'd be tooting it. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz." And look, this is simple. I think I've been saying this for how many weeks now? We've been on the air for a couple of weeks. And basically since the outset, it's been Dillon Gabriel's going to be QB2. So look, we weren't sure if they were going to carry 4. They end up carrying 3 because they trade Kenny Pickett to the Raiders. And now all of a sudden we have the question, well, who's going to be quarterback 2? This was clear. Part of the reason they were comfortable trading Kenny Pickett is because Dillon Gabriel played well enough to secure the backup quarterback job during the preseason, Caroline.
Yeah, I was frankly kind of surprised by the Kenny Pickett move. I thought it was bold that the Browns would carry 4 quarterbacks, but I still thought that they were going to do it because I didn't think Kevin Stefanski or the Browns coaching staff wanted to put either of their rookies in a position to have to back up Joe Flacco if, knock on wood, and if that day may come that Joe Flacco is not able to quarterback for this team. I didn't think that they want to throw that rookie quarterback out there, and I also don't think that they wanted to have to make up their minds about Dillon Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders right now. But here they are. They're showing you, look, everything that they have seen in practice and everything that they've seen in preseason games gives them enough confidence that Dillon Gabriel can be that guy if Joe Flacco goes down with an injury or for whatever reason that might be. Of course, knock on wood, we don't wish that to happen to anybody. Does that mean that hands down, zero doubt about it, Dillon Gabriel is clearly the better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders? No, I don't think that that's what that messaging is. I think that what this says is right now, the Browns trust Dillon Gabriel more to execute the offense than they trust Shedeur Sanders to execute the offense. Can that change at some time? Sure, absolutely. Is this written in stone and in Sharpie and Dillon Gabriel, there's no way that he could be overtaken by Shedeur Sanders? Of course not. All that means right now is the Browns trust Dillon Gabriel more. And if you've watched the preseason games, I don't know how you could come to any other conclusion that Dillon Gabriel is more trustworthy to run and to execute this offense. And if they need one of those 2 quarterbacks to come in and win a game for them, Dillon Gabriel is more trustworthy at this point from what we have seen in 3 preseason games than Shedeur Sanders right now.
The headline could easily, to me, read, 2-time coach of the year selects 3rd-round quarterback to be backup, 5th-round quarterback to be 3rd string. Like, that's all we're really talking about.
That's just
and when you see
the
it
NFL.
like that, Yeah, it's like, this is not shocking news. And look, I think part of this is we got to start to figure out what it's going to look like when the Browns inevitably struggle early on in the season, because the schedule is brutal. As everybody has told you repeatedly, we've said part of the reason I don't love the concept of starting any rookie quarterback for the Browns is the schedule is brutal early on. This is where I would argue, Caroline, that Joe Flacco is the perfect QB1 for the Browns, because frankly, I know people around Joe. I've talked to Joe a couple of times. One of the things about Joe Flacco that really makes him unique is that he has wild focus. Like, when they say everybody's, well, it just focuses on football. Nope. Even at the peak of Joe Flacco's career, when he's coming off getting very wealthy with the Ravens, and he could have gone out and done a million other things, he's just a football guy. And he shuts out all the noise. Like, there is something to having somebody in this seat, in this situation, with these backup quarterbacks, that's not really going to care about the outside noise. And that's, I think, part of what makes Joe Flacco wildly qualified to be QB1, not just week one, but throughout the course of the season. Because if the Browns struggle, when I believe the Browns struggle, Kevin Stefanski, again, two-time coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski, is going to have to ask himself, okay, what's best for this team today? What's best for this entire 53-man roster? And how do I develop my young quarterbacks? Well, Flacco is not somebody that necessarily sees a responsibility to go in and develop a quarterback. He believes that if you turn around and do your job and the guys in the room watch you do your job, that they will get better at it. That's his style. So what is Flacco going to do? He's going to come in with blinders on, and he's just going to play the position the best he can play the position. And today, the Browns believe that gives them the best chance to win. If and when they find themselves so wildly out of the playoff hunt that they want to decide to see what they have at the quarterback position, it may make tremendous sense there. But if Joe can even keep them remotely competitive, then you've got yourself the type of person that's starting that won't hear the chants from the crowd, that won't care about the questions from the media, and that won't care about the scrutiny that seems to come with everything around Shador's room, right? So to me, Flacco is the perfect QB1 for this quarterback situation, because if you take all of the BS away and you shut off all the noise, the Browns have been consistent in their messaging since day one. They drafted a quarterback in the third round, a quarterback in the fifth round, told you they were comfortable carrying 4, traded 1 out, and they still, through all of this, have Joe Flacco as their starter, Dylan Gabriel is their backup, Shador is their third string. We could have predicted this all the way back in April after the draft. So I think it's time to actually credit the Browns for where they are, for who they've gotten these situations, and for why, honestly, I think this can work short-term and long-term to the best of whatever the Browns can deliver this year.
Yeah, and I think Joe Flacco is perfect to your point, because a young, maybe quarterback that's still trying to prove himself, a quarterback wouldn't be as comfortable with this experiment with Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders as Joe Flacco is going to be. Joe Flacco has had his career. Joe Flacco understands his role, and I don't think is going to be intimidated by 2 young rookie quarterbacks battling for a starting opportunity. But I do wonder, what's the Browns' plan? Right? What's the Browns' plan? I expect the Browns to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, which would mean that they will probably have a top 3, top 5 pick in the NFL draft next year. That's quarterback territory. So if Joe Flacco wins you enough games that you're, let's just say, not a top 3, top 5 picking team in the draft next year, well, then are you going to run it back with Joe Flacco? Is Dylan Gabriel then your starting quarterback? Well, okay. Well, let's say Joe Flacco isn't that kind of quarterback. Let's say the Browns are just bad and the Browns just lose games. Well, what's the point of keeping Joe Flacco out there? Wouldn't you want to see what you have in your young quarterbacks? And then if they lose you games, well, then you go out and you draft another quarterback of the future. When are you supposed to find what you have in Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders? Do the Browns even care about finding what they have in a 3rd and a 5th round quarterback? And their plan all along was, cool, if one of these guys pops, then great, we look like geniuses drafting our quarterback of the future in either the 3rd or the 5th round. So I just wonder what the plan is at the quarterback position, and when the Browns plan to evaluate these quarterbacks to figure out who will be their quarterback of the future. Is it one of these guys, or is it one of the guys coming out in the 2026 draft?
I don't think there's any chance that the Cleveland Browns can give up on their season before they've even played a game. So to answer your question, today, their specific goal is to put the best player on the field that can help them win a football game. And I know everybody's going to sit here and say, yeah, but they're going to suck. Well, the Browns can't believe that internally. And even if they do believe that internally, they owe it to their 53-man roster to at least try to win a football game, right? Like, they owe it to their roster to at least try to put wins up. Now, if it goes off the rails and suddenly they're out of contention, then yeah, at the end of the season, you want to put guys in and see what they can do. But also, this is where, I mean, again, maybe we should be more sensationalistic in the way we cover everything. But if we're being honest, I believe that Kevin Stefanski will, over the course of practice, get a good sense of where his quarterbacks are. And that will tell him who he should be playing. Like, how do you look Myles Garrett in the eyes and say, hey, I know Dylan Gabriel is not going to win us games. I know Shedeur is not going to win us games, but damn it, we just got to see what we got. So you go out there, you risk injury, you play to the best of your ability, you go out there and be a superstar. Team's not going to win, but we just got to see what we have for the quarterback till next year. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that to other stars that are on the team.
Don't you have to do that at some point, though?
When you're out of it.
But you don't have to do that week one.
Certainly, you have to do that late in the season when you're like, yep, we got no hope. We're just going to see what the young quarterback. That's when you shut down Myles Garrett because you don't want to risk injury. You shut down all your good players and you put your backups in and you see what you have. But also, I just think that over the course of the season, they'll get a good sense. Like, Michael Penix Jr. didn't get the starting job because they just needed to see Michael Penix Jr. He showed enough throughout the course of the entire season in practice that we didn't see, that the coaches were like, yeah, we got to make a change. When do we make a change in Cleveland? Well, if Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders goes out and just continues to improve every single week in the reps that they get, and the coaches look around and they're like, yeah, it's undeniable, we got to give the kid a shot, then you give the kid a shot. But if they're not playing well enough on the 6 days a week that we don't see them, then you don't put them on the field Sunday just to see what you've got. I mean, I hear you that you don't want to be out of the quarterback market, but man, I also genuinely don't believe an organization can give up on all 53 players and live to see those 53 players want to fight for that organization in the future.
100%. And you're not going to take yourself out of the fight before you've even been in it. I just also know that quarterback purgatory is a really scary place to be. When you are too good to be in contention for one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, but too bad to be in contention for the playoffs or in the Super Bowl. That's when you find yourself kind of constantly in this mucky middle. And look, you'd rather win games and be relevant than be absolutely dreadful. But when you think about some of the teams in contention right now, sometimes I think about the Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals. They were just lucky enough to be bad enough at the right time to draft Joe Burrow number 1 overall, and it completely changed their franchise. Not every franchise is lucky enough to be in that situation. Not every franchise has to be the worst team in the league in order to find their quarterback of the future. I totally and completely understand that. I just do wonder, making the assumption, maybe it's an unfair one, but making the assumption that the Browns are not going to be a very good football team. What is the plan come week 9, come week 10 when the Browns are out of contention? Now, again, maybe that's an unfair assumption. Maybe the Browns completely and totally shock all of us. I would love to see that, frankly. But I just do wonder, what is the long-term plan? Do they feel like they have to have a long-term plan right now? Or is it just Joe's our guy, and until he's not, he's not?
Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, all not first overall picks. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift had a day yesterday. We'll tell you about it next on Yahoo Sports Daily. Breaking. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift announced on social media that they are engaged. Oh, who doesn't
Woo!
love it when love wins? Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, we're hanging out with you on Yahoo Sports Daily. And
It's just
this
so
one,
happy.
look, your joy is palpable on this, my friend.
I'm just happy for them. And I'm not like a crazy Swiftie, but whenever I heard, the upset Brads and Chads about Taylor Swift's shown too much on football broadcasts, it's like, no, she's not. Okay. Like, no, she's not. It's like everyone's, hatred for Taylor Swift just made me appreciate her even more. And I'm just so happy for them. They're happy with each other. They're lovey-dovey. And let me just say, I am happy for myself, because I am now engaged at the same time as America's couple, as the number one superstar in the world, the royal wedding in the United States. I am engaged at the same time. And that just makes me feel like me and Taylor Swift are besties, that we are just that much closer to one another, that we are going through wedding planning together. So let's go through a little bit, maybe, Fitzy, a tale of the tape of two engaged blondes. Yes, Caroline Fenton and Taylor Swift. We have so much in common. Taylor Swift doesn't win everything, though. Neither does Travis Kelce, because who was engaged first between Taylor Swift and myself? Suck it, Taylor. It was me. I win. Point for me. I was engaged first. I win that one. Now this is
a tiny point for Dylan. Like, he asked first.
Also,
like, just say,
he's also involved in this as well. This is not about him, though.
Just more. Yeah, okay, my bad. I digress. I will step back. Go ahead.
It does take two to tango, but this is my party. Thank you very much. Now this is where our esteemed producers bring me back down to earth a little bit, because net worth between Caroline Fenton and Taylor Swift, I will bend the knee to that one. Taylor Swift, I'm not going to pocket watch. I'm just going to assume she's got a few more shekels in the bank than I do. So tie game.
You could get a pocket watch. Well, you could get a pocket watch with Taylor's face on it, and then be like, "Hey, we're pocket watching." Like, you and Taylor wanted the same. Or you could do you could find out the deets on Taylor's wedding, which I'm sure will be there every second. And then you could social media try and do like a Wish version of the same, like a Temu version of the same wedding.
Temu
so
version.
Like, change everything that you've already planned, and then just ask yourself, forget all the planning that you've already put into it. Deposits gone. Okay, but now instead, going to do an entirely new plan where you basically take it and you do Swiftie on a budget. And you try and mimic the wedding. I'm just throwing out suggestions here.
The thought of replanning everything that I've planned makes me want to throw up.
Congratulations.
To be honest with you. Thank you very much. But you know what? It's a thought. It is a thought. I will drop my Venmo down there in the comments if anybody would like to help me maybe catch up that all of that lead that Taylor has. Maybe
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Net worth department.
Where are we on the tail?
Every penny counts.
Right now. Okay.
We are tied right now. I was engaged first. Suck it, Taylor. But she's richer than me. Okay, but just by a little bit. AFC quarterback allegiance. We both have one. She's dating that guy on the Chiefs. Well, engaged to that guy on the Chiefs. She has a Patrick Mahomes. I went to LSU. I covered Joe Burrow in his time at LSU. So we each have an AFC quarterback allegiance. Now, Patrick Mahomes does have significantly more Super Bowls than Joe Burrow has. That is the truth. That is the case. But they're both in the AFC, and they both have fantastic hair fits.
That is an advantage it's got to be an advantage to Taylor, right? Like, maybe we're calling that a push. Here's one advantage, though. Like if we're being just a little transparent here, like, she probably has Mahomes' number. I don't think you have Joe Burrow's number. I don't. I mean, I'm not being a very good. I'm not being a very good Robin to your Batman here. You know what? I've got you. Burrow better than Mahomes. Let's go. I'll give you the. Can I give you? I don't know how that. Okay.
I don't think not even I could really do that. Sure, we'll be nice.
Okay, sure.
We'll be nice. We'll call it a tie between the two. That is so not the case. She absolutely has the advantage with Patrick Mahomes, and they are probably close personal friends, not close personal friends with Joe Burrow. That's okay. That's all right. But we both have fiancés.
Hey, Gold Farm, can we work on that? Get Burrow on the show. Let's go.
There's Dylan. He made it.
Aww.
Just like we snagged Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce's headshots from ESPN.com to the same thing with Dylan. Just had to take that one from a different version of where their work is displayed on LinkedIn. So Dylan has LinkedIn, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have ESPN.com. Same exact thing. But they both have solid resumes. So I would call that one a wash, right? I would personally like to give the advantage to Dylan. But I will be fair to Travis Kelce. He's done like a few things. Dylan's done more, but whatever.
I think we've left out important things, though. Like, does Dylan have any seriously regrettable pictures of himself that were actual promo pictures at some point? Because we've all seen the Cincinnati pictures,
so.
Of Kelce, and they're not becoming. Like, it's just not a great look, right? Like, the glow up of Kelce that has come with, like, Dylan, of course, has had a glow up just because he's with you. But, I mean, Kelce's glow up from Taylor Swift it's been sizable. I'm just, like, we could have put some of those in to give you a better shot.
And Dylan knows how to spell squirrel. Travis Kelce does not. A famous tweet that has been recirculated so many times since they started dating. Dylan's never been kicked off a team for doing drugs. So that's, I guess advantage.
So Kelce knows how to have a better time. All right, Kelce, a better hang. Look, well, this is what we're figuring out. Like, I do think, Caroline, we owe the collective Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, not you and I, but there are some people out there that have some crow to eat on Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I'm just saying they spent plenty of time talking about conspiracy theories and why it wasn't real, and now love has gone to the next level. So, I'm not sure we'll get a wedding invite, although, as I say all the time, Taylor's drummer, very, very good friend of mine. So, maybe I'll see if I can get that +1. But if I get the +1, I'm not taking you. I just so you know, like, I'm just, you and Dylan cannot go because I don't want you stealing her wedding ideas.
I will not steal her wedding ideas, even though they're going to be perfect and amazing and, wonderful in every single way. I already made my Pinterest board, and there's no going back from that. I've done enough planning at this point.
Yeah, facts. All right, congratulations to Taylor. Congratulations to Travis. In the meantime, hour number 2 of Yahoo Sports Daily coming right around the corner. Hunter or hunted with some of the biggest programs in college football. We'll tell you next hour on Yahoo Sports Daily. Still got the spring in our step. Hour number 2 of Yahoo Sports Daily is underway. It's a hump day. I had to look it up twice because I was like, is it Wednesday? I don't know. They all bleed together. It is a hump day edition of Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We have got a ton still to get into, including, superstar guest going to join us this hour. But in the meantime, let's start with 3 points. What is on your mind, my friend?
Speaking of superstars, all of the superstars are out at the U.S. Open, and it was a rocky start for one superstar, Coco Gauff, but survive in advance is the name of the game, and that is exactly what she did. No, it wasn't the prettiest one, but it was one. That's all that matters. Coco Gauff got a win over Australia's Aliyah Tomljanovic, and I apologize if I totally butchered that. But she got a win in the first round at the U.S. Open on Tuesday. This was her first Grand Slam, Coco's first Grand Slam, that is, since hiring a new coach to tweak her swing and her serve after 2 first-round eliminations over the last few months. And it was a rough start. She double faulted in the very first game and 10 times total. In her second set, she led by a break twice, but could not close it out. Then in the third, she went up 5-3 and then double faulted twice. Then she settled in. 3 hours later, Coco won and advanced after an absolute battle. Now, she was emotional after that match. She even said herself she was far from perfect, but she kept talking about the progress that she continues to make, maybe taking a couple of steps back in order to take leaps and bounds forward. And I think this just continues to show why Coco Gauff is such a lovable figure and is such a certified superstar in this sport, obviously, because of what she's able to accomplish on the sport. But her openness, her vulnerability, her ability to just balance the grit and taking ownership of her flaws, it is so relatable. And I think it reminds us that these are real people, not just athletes. These are real people. She's honest, she's incredibly talented, and I think that more and more people are continuing to fall in love more with not just the athlete, Coco Gauff, but the person, Coco Gauff. I'm wishing her nothing but the best as she continues throughout her journey in Flushing Meadows.
Authenticity is so important, and she just absolutely exudes it in everything that she does. All right, Caroline Fenton, I will give you a point on my mind, and it's some breaking NFL news. Reunited, and it feels so good. Yeah, that's right. Adam Thielen is headed back to the Minnesota Vikings. We still don't have to pay licensing. It wasn't enough. The Panthers and Vikings finalizing a trade for wide receiver Adam Thielen. According to Adam Schefter, the Vikings received Thielen, a conditional 2026 7th and a 2027 5th. The Panthers receive a 2026 5th and a 2027 4th. All of that complication to say this: Adam Thielen played much of his career and much of his meaningful football in Minnesota, and now he is headed back. We spent the last few days wondering if this would happen. This has been widely rumored, especially considering some of the wide receiver issues that the Vikings have and understanding that the Vikings are in win-now mode. So what does that mean? That means if they want to add to the room, they've got to add somebody that can get to the offense quickly. Well, bringing in somebody that has played in this city, that understands this offense, that knows exactly what's happening is key. I keep saying this over and over and over again, but the Vikings won 14 games last year and still decided they were comfortable making a quarterback change. Well, if you're going to make a quarterback change to a kid that hasn't played any meaningful snaps, how do you help him? You bring in veterans that know the offense and know how to execute it every single time. Communication is such a huge part of young quarterback with wide receiver, particularly what do you see, why do you see it, and where are you going? Having wide receivers around JJ that understand exactly what KOC wants done in this offense will only help the Vikings be better from day one. So this move doesn't surprise me from the Vikings standpoint. It does raise some questions, though, for Carolina. I know Adam Thielen wasn't as good last year as he was the year before. We all know that. But if you're the Panthers and you're trying to surround Bryce Young with as much talent, they just made a bigger question mark in their own wide receiver room of what's going to happen there. There are great expectations from most of us for the Panthers. There are for the Vikings. So congratulations for Adam getting to go back to someplace he wants, getting to go back to someplace it looks like his family wanted him to go back and play in, and most importantly, getting the opportunity to go back to a city that he's already contributed to and have the opportunity to win at the highest possible level. We'll see what it all means for the Carolina Panthers. All right, that brings me, Caroline, to our number one point. If you started the show with us today, you heard Arch Manning talking about the fact that Texas feels like they are hunted, but they are hunting. And it has us looking around, trying to figure out who's hunted, who's the hunter, where are we on college football programs. We've gone through some of the biggest names in college football. We're going to continue to do that now as we look at the rest of the top 10, okay? So the question is hunter or hunted? And we're going to look at the number 6 team in the country, Notre Dame. In your eyes, are the Fighting Irish hunting or are they the hunted?
I think they're still the hunters. Look, I understand that Notre Dame was just represented in the college football playoff and in the national championship game, but they fell short of it. So I think that creates this sense of hunger that is really unmatched, that losing in a championship game, having a championship in your grasp and then letting it go has to be one of the most devastating but also motivating feelings in all of sports. So I think that they are the hunters. I think that's exactly how Marcus Freeman, their head coach, wants them to be. That I feel like Marcus Freeman, similar to like a Kirby Smart or a Nick Saban, I'm not saying he is those guys, but it's the mentality of those guys that you never get too high or you're too low. You never let your head get too big because of what everybody else on the outside is saying about you. I admire Marcus Freeman so much and the way that he has been able to continue to build this program. That when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, he said, well, I'm going to LSU because it's easier to win a national championship. And while neither of them have done that yet, Marcus Freeman has been in the college football playoff and Brian Kelly hasn't. Marcus Freeman has gotten his team to a national championship and Brian Kelly at LSU has not. So I think that they are still the hunters. I understand that Notre Dame is a massive brand. They're still the hunters because of becoming so close to a national championship, but falling short.
I love your logic on it. The only thing I'd say, and again, I want to qualify this for a second, Caroline. As you well know, and as everybody's finding out, I don't care who wins or loses. I don't have a favorite team. I don't root for or against anybody in college football, which makes it so easy to step back and just be some version of a nihilistic soup stirrer. Like all I want to do is just stir the soup, and I'm just going to use the word soup. So I like stirring everything up a little bit, and Notre Dame is one of the easiest things to do that with because, frankly, everybody has a big pro or con take on Notre Dame, and I don't share any of it. But when the whole world seems to want to flock to a take on something, that immediately to me means you're hunted. There is meaning to so many fans and football teams out there to just knock Notre Dame down a peg. The non-Notre Damers are out here saying they don't belong in the playoffs. All they do is get their butts kicked in national championships, so they shouldn't even be allowed to play in one. Like these anti-Notre Dame narratives that come out are hysterical to me. But then you've got the Notre Dame diehards who are absolutely on the other side of it. And so all I keep looking at is when you are so polarizing. And I think Notre Dame, as a general rule, because everybody is so either absolutely boiling hot or frozen cold on it, there's no lukewarm, which means you're hunted. Because at some point, if everybody wants to beat you just to put you in your place or just to show you don't belong or because you don't belong in a conference, like whatever the whiny opinion of the day about Notre Dame is, people have it. So as a result, I think you see other teams, other fan bases they get a little more amped up. When it's Notre Dame week, they get a little bit more excited. Like, should Miami really care about Notre Dame this weekend? No. Does Miami care about Notre Dame this weekend? Tremendously. Casual college football fans.
Why should Miami care about Notre Dame this weekend?
Well, I mean, they don't care about them as a rival. It's just a ranked on ranked game. But they don't get beating Notre Dame wouldn't be any more special than beating anybody else that's ranked. But it is because it's Notre Dame. Yeah. Miami fans are in here saying, I just want to take down Notre Dame because they're not in a conference. All of this just means it's a little extra motivation. And that's why they're hunted. And frankly, I think Notre Dame fans kind of love that. I think Notre Dame fans love sitting on the perch of you wish you were us, even though nobody really wishes they were Notre Dame fans. So it's a wild logic.
It is quite literally. I mean, I understand it's Notre Dame, but it is also figuratively such a holier than thou mentality of, Notre Dame fans believe, well, you want to be us so badly. And I think the rest of college football is looking around not really, but there is that sign, that kind of putting Notre Dame up on a pedestal because they are Notre Dame. And that is a very realistic thing.
Yeah, it's also real that Rudy sucked. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. It sucked. Rudy just sucked.
It is so heartwarming. And I cry every single time. He achieved his biggest dream. He worked for it and he got it.
Oh,
He's so sweet.
The eye roll, when you were little, your mom was like, if you make that face, you'll stay that way. If that was true, every time I see it, it would just be frozen. Eyes up here because the eye roll every time they're putting the jersey. Coach, I'm not going to play if Rudy doesn't. Well, that's such just junk. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the next team in the top 10 that doesn't involve Rudy. Thank God. Oregon. All right, so is Oregon hunted or the hunter?
They're the hunted. We had this conversation last hour about Georgia, and of course, you can find that back at the Yahoo Sports YouTube page, that for some reason, it feels like everybody has forgotten about the greatness of Georgia, that they feel like the hunters when really they should be the hunted. I think this exact same thing about Oregon. I think everyone's looking at that like everyone's forgotten about Oregon. Did everybody just all of a sudden forget that Oregon was the only undefeated team in the regular season last year? The only undefeated team when we had, the Clemsons, when we had the Ohio States, when we had the Georgias. Oregon was the one that was at the top of college football. Why have we all just forgotten about that? Have we all just forgotten about what Dan Lanning has built and is continuing to build at Oregon? Has everyone just forgot that they basically have a blank Nike check every single year and can pay whatever they want to every single five-star across America, and they've done that? I understand that they lost a lot of pieces from that team that was in the college football playoff last year. I get it. I totally understand that. But I have all of the confidence in the world in Dan Lanning and in this program and so much of the talent that they've recruited. So they are the hunted. I know it doesn't feel that way, but I think that we should be talking about Oregon that way. They've deserved that benefit of the doubt, even if they've lost a whole heck of a lot of talent from this past season.
Well, and that's the reason that I think people are forgotten on it. But, let's not get it twisted. Oregon losing in the college football playoff was so shocking to everybody because of the matchup that they drew that they changed the entire seeding process. They turned around. The college football world turned around and said, no, we can't have that again. There's no way. Oregon was clearly one of the best teams in the country. And as such, they should be hunted. But the fact that they're not being hunted makes them the hunter. And you're right. Anybody that's watching this, if you don't know, they're dipped through the transfer portal this year. I mean, it feels like the entire team is wildly different than it was last year. Fine. Their head coach isn't. And I don't think we can pick and choose giving benefit of the doubt. Modern college football means that sometimes you're going to have to reload entirely overnight. That's what Oregon has had to do. But in Dan Lanning, I trust. You have one of the best coaches, recruiters, talent evaluators in all of college football. So just like we spent years saying, well, Alabama's got to reload, but they're Alabama. Georgia's got to reload, but they're Georgia. I put Lanning in that same category. Oregon's got to reload, but they're Oregon. I think Oregon's going to be one of the surprises of the college football season because they've been so forgotten, because I trust their coaching staff so much, and because I do think they have a chip on their shoulder for the way last season ended, frankly, and for the fact that right now they are wildly forgotten. How can you dominate college football the way they did last year and then just forget about it? It's a reminder about what I said earlier. Mm-hmm. We are at a spot now where the only thing that's going to matter in the memory of the collective college football consciousness is the playoff. And because Oregon didn't win in the playoff, they must suck this year. I'm not buying that at all. So I think they're hunting with aggressiveness.
And I think Oregon has become the home of quarterback rehabilitation since Dan Lanning has taken over. Bo Nix, I mean, he was kind of the butt of every single joke in the SEC when he was at Auburn. I mean, it was Bo Nix throw picks. That was the joke. He comes over to Oregon. He was a Heisman Trophy finalist. Dillon Gabriel was essentially kicked out at Oklahoma. Brent Venables, their head coach, said, we're going with the young gun Jackson Arnold, this 5-star recruit. We don't need you anymore. So Dillon Gabriel went to Oregon. He was a Heisman Trophy finalist. Dante Moore is taking over as their starting quarterback this season. Now, he was at UCLA. It wasn't great, but he had a year to sit behind Dillon Gabriel, to learn this offense, to learn by osmosis from Dillon Gabriel. So I expect Dante Moore to just be that next guy, that next quarterback at Oregon. I don't think we talk enough about the quarterback position, how it's developed at Oregon since Dan Lanning's taken over. But I do want to go on to, that was number 7. Number 8. Now, this is always going to be a spicy topic. Number 8, Alabama, hunter or hunted, Fitz, in your opinion?
Alabama is still hunted. And here's the thing. I was a fat kid that played dodgeball, right? And so when I was a fat kid that played dodgeball in 5th grade, a lot of times I just got out on the dodgeball court and immediately got pegged in the face repeatedly, over and over and over, by kids that were far more athletic than I was and in better shape. I am now at this stage in my life, I am no longer the fat kid. I'm the one in good shape. And most of the people that were throwing those dodgeballs at me, they're now the fat kids, right? So if we went down today and we all decided we were going to have a reunion dodgeball game, I would pick up every ball and I would just be flinging them over and over and over again. That's what the college football world wants to do to Alabama. When you have watched the dominance, they were the bully beating up on fat kids for years. I think Alabama is still a very good football team, but I don't think that they're what they were, and that's not a hot take. You lose the greatest coach of all time, arguably, in college football, you are going to have a mini setback in the process. Alabama's still great. They're just not unbeatable. So now everybody else is still bringing that A game like Alabama is who they were under Nick Saban. Again, I don't think they are. And on top of that, everybody brings that extra spice of knowing, man, you spent a decade beating me up, and now it's my time to beat up the bully. At the end of the day, no matter how Alabama could win 4 football games this year. I don't think they will, but they could win 4 football games. And every single team they play this season will still be hunting them because they want revenge for watching them get their asses kicked for a generation. So because everybody's still bitter about getting hit in the face like a fat kid in dodgeball, they are still hunting Alabama, even though Alabama is not who they once were.
Oh, they're the hunters. They used to be the hunted,
Ooh.
but now welcome to the rest of us, Alabama. You are hunters just like everybody else. And I think above all else, because look, I fully expect Alabama to be a college football playoff contender this year. I think that Alabama has a top 5 roster. Their quarterback, Ty Simpson, is a question mark, but Kalen DeBoer is a quarterback whisperer, and he made an intentional decision to not go into the transfer portal and get another starting quarterback. That shows his belief in Ty Simpson. So ex post facto, that shows my belief in Ty Simpson because I believe in Kalen DeBoer. He has won everywhere he has gone. I don't think that this, habit of losing to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt is going to be a trend at Alabama. Even Nick Saban had a rough first year at Alabama. But I think that above all else, I think they're going to be a good team. They're still hunting the shadow that's cast over them that's in the shape and the size of Nick Saban. Like Kalen DeBoer is still hunting the fact that he deserves to be the guy after the guy. Alabama is still hunting what they were under Nick Saban. I don't think it's possible to achieve the kind of success and the kind of dynastic success that Nick Saban had at Alabama. I don't think that's possible in present day college football and with the transfer portal and with NIL, but they're still going to be hunting that. Alabama no longer is viewed as the kings of the SEC. It is Texas and it is Georgia. And Alabama has clumped in the same kind of tier as Texas A&M, as LSU, as South Carolina, this season at least, in terms of who we view as legitimate playoff contenders. Alabama is lumped in that kind of second tier of the SEC. It is not anymore Alabama and everybody else. They're still chasing that. So for that reason, they're hunters.
I love the fact that you worked in Expo Facto. I think I wrote that down right. That was well done. I worked in Flumbuzzle on Monday as a joke. She worked in Expo Facto on Wednesday because she's just smart. All right. From college football back to the NFL, it is fantasy football time galore. Justin Boone going to join the show. You need to hear what he has to say about Jonathan Taylor. We'll do it next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
Here are the top 10 fantasy running backs for 2025. Number 10, Jonathan Taylor. He's got the talent to be number 1 on this list, but that Colts offense, it holds him back a little bit. Number 9, Bucky Irving. He broke out as a rookie. Now Rachaad White's banged up. He's going to have another big year. Number 8, Chase Brown. He was the RB7 overall during the final 15 weeks last season. He could be a top 5 guy if he keeps that up. Number 7, Derrick Henry. This guy laughs in the face of Father Time. He will not slow down, and he's always a threat for double-digit touchdowns. Number 6, Devon Achane. His splits with and without Tua Tagovailoa were wild last year, so as long as Tua stays healthy, Achane can be a league winner.
That was Justin Boone. We're going to talk about some of those players with him momentarily. You can catch him on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, where he's an expert analyst. He finished first in Fantasy Pro's most accurate expert competition in 2019. Just flex him right there. You're going to be the most accurate expert on this show. We all know you are, but you're going to, right?
I mean, I hope so. I haven't been in that accuracy contest in a while, but I've made the argument before that I actually think my rankings probably got more accurate when I left that contest, because to worry about, staying close to consensus or anything like that. You can take wild swings, and I'm really, really happy with where the rankings are this year. I put a ton of time into them.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Number 28 is going to be the nice theme in this segment, because Yahoo's 28 Day of Fantasy continues. Scan the QR code that you see on your screen, because Yahoo's giving new Fantasy Plus subscribers 28% off their first year. Get it fast through this offer, though. This offer ends with kickoff at 7 p.m. on September 4th. That's 28% off. So, Justin, let's have some fun talking about guys that wear the jersey number 28. Tell our audience the most accurate prediction possible for players who wear the number 28, starting with Jonathan Taylor of the Colts.
The most accurate prediction with Jonathan Taylor is that I'm kind of staying away from him this year. And the big concern with Taylor, it's not his talent. Like, he has the talent to totally be the number 1 running back overall in fantasy, and yet it's this offense that kind of holds him back, right? We don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. I was certainly hopeful that we get a better situation this year, and yet neither guy really ran away with the job. It seems like Daniel Jones just got it by default. I think we could see a scenario where both these quarterbacks are flip-flopping throughout the year, getting starts. The offensive line in Indy, which was a strength for so long, not so much anymore, right? Ryan Kelly's gone. Will Fries is gone. I think now we have some question marks there. And then you just look at this backfield. For years, Taylor had no one else to worry about. This year, they go out and get a guy that's kind of interesting in DJ Giddens. And that doesn't mean they're going to take a ton away from Taylor, but maybe a few more touches per game could go a different way. That could be problematic. But overall, it just comes down to the state of this offense. How successful is this team going to be? The fantasy points data had a great stat recently. The fantasy points per game leaders when the running backs team was the betting favorite, number 1 in the league last year, ahead of even Saquon Barkley. We know what a great season he had. Number 1 in the league was Jonathan Taylor, averaged 25.3 fantasy points per game when the Colts were the betting favorite. That was over the 6 contests where Indy was in that situation. How many games are they going to be favored in this year? How many games are they going to win this year? How many positive game scripts? I think that's all really scary, and it's unfortunate for Taylor because he should be a very clear first-round pick in fantasy, and yet I don't really want to take him until the mid to late second round at best.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the Colts are a question mark, and kind of in a different way. It feels like the Miami Dolphins are a little bit of a question mark as well. So let's get into their number 28, Devon Achane. Most accurate prediction possible that you could give us for him. Where is he kind of looking for some fantasy drafts?
Oh, man. I feel like when I think about Achane, I feel like Seth Rogen in Step Brothers when he's interviewing Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and they show up in the tuxedos. And at first he's like, this seems odd. And then the more weird things they do, eventually he's like, no, this is definitely strange. The tuxedos were weird, right? That's how I feel about Achane, where at the beginning of the offseason, I'm looking at a situation. I'm going, man, Jonnu Smith goes away. There's going to be so much opportunity for catching passes, for tons of volume there. We know the kind of upside he has, even though there's a little bit of weirdness, right, to his injury situation, the offensive line, but I think it's going to be okay. And since then, it's just red flag after red flag after red flag. We add to it now this calf injury that, if we believe Mike McDaniel, sure, Achane is going to be out there in week 1, but how many times have we been misled by coaches? I mean, everybody remembers the Christian McCaffrey situation last year. And then calf injuries too. We've seen a lot of professional athletes across all sports in the last few years have a calf injury, try to come back and play through it, and end up with something more serious like an ACL tear or whatnot. So that's a big time concern. You have the Tyreek Hill of it all, right? And just everything he does, all the problems he's causing off the field for no reason. Like, the preseason is supposed to be a time when like every team is just talking about how they're going to win the Super Bowl and everything's great. And yet Tyreek's going up in press conferences and questioning the running game and what they're doing in the backfield, questioning whether Achane should be getting goal line touches, right? Like, it's just a bad vibe in Miami right now. And that makes me really, really concerned for Achane. You also factor in, like I said, the offensive line, pretty weak, I think. And that's not great when you have a quarterback like Tua that has durability concerns. And when you look at Achane's situation last year, he averaged 22.4 fantasy points per game in the contest when Tua was out there. So one of the best running backs in the league for fantasy when Tua was under center. When Tua wasn't, 8.6 fantasy points per game. You basically had to put him on your bench. Devon Achane went from being one of the best to one of the worst fantasy starters just based on Tua's situation there. So I'm really concerned about this injury. I'm also concerned about the fact that Ollie Gordon looks pretty good. He had a great preseason, and he brings something that they haven't really had. I mean, I mentioned that goal line situation. Wouldn't it be nice to have a back like Ollie Gordon out there, a bigger back that could power through and maybe overcome some of those offensive line deficiencies? I think we could see him eat into Achane's work a little bit there. So there's just so many red flags around Achane now. So many red flags around the Dolphins entirely. I could see their season just getting derailed. I could see Mike McDaniel being fired at some point this year. So I did get a lot of shares of guys like Achane and Jalen Waddle. So I'm invested in this offense. I got those shares early in the offseason. Right now, I am not interested in taking those guys. I would put Achane more where I'm taking Jonathan Taylor, which is like mid to late second round, which means I'm not going to get very much of them.
What I really got out of that was you're telling me not to wear a tux for FFL on Sunday. So that's fine. It's fine. Okay. Now that I know where you stand on that, where do you stand on Joe Mixon? He's out to start the season. We'll miss at least the first 4 games. What's the most accurate prediction possible for Mixon at this point?
Just don't take him in fantasy. He might not even play a game this year. I think it's that concerning. And we kind of figured this out along the way, right? If you were reading the tea leaves, everything that was coming out, it wasn't like definitive information, but every time DeMeco Ryans was asked about it, he was very cagey. They wouldn't give straight answers about the injury. At one point, he told the media, like, I wish you just guys wouldn't even ask about this, right? Just don't even bring it up, which is so strange. And then now we find out there's a bunch of sources out there now saying that, we know he's going to miss 4 games, but a lot of sources are saying it could be longer than that. Is he going to be the same player when he comes back? We're talking about an older running back coming back from what seems like a pretty serious foot injury here. I think this could be a problem for his career the rest of the way. And then you look at what the Texans have done, right? We knew in the offseason they brought in Nick Chubb. And it's not that Nick Chubb is the Nick Chubb of old, but just the fact that they brought him in told you, okay, they're looking for other options. They drafted Woody Marks, who I think definitely could factor in the passing game. It looks like it's going to be him and Chubb to begin the year. They also have some other guys that are kind of interesting, like Dameon Pierce, that, people forget the season he had as a rookie, over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. If Nick Chubb can't get the job done, maybe Pierce comes in and does something there. Dario Ogunbowale is like one of those like fantasy vultures that always seems to pop up, get some catches, maybe score a touchdown and steal the points that we want to see going to our main fantasy guys. And then the offensive line for the Texans, one of the worst in the league right now. They got a lot of things to figure out there. So Mixon, to me, I've had him down outside of my top 40 running backs for a while as like those, little things were coming out about the injury. Now I have him down to RB 57. And I had a team. It's not just about where I'm ranking guys or what we're saying. It's about what we're doing. And I had a draft recently, one of my home leagues, and I needed a running back. I ended up in like not quite 0 RB, but more of like a hero RB approach. And I needed another running back, and Mixon was available pretty late for me. And I still passed on him in favor of guys like Zach Charbonnet and Trey Benson and Braylon Allen, some of these backups that could potentially have a path to RB3 flex value weekly. And maybe if something happens with their starter, they could become, top 15, top 20 guys for fantasy. So Mixon off my board entirely. You guys are making me be so negative here. I always love talking about the positive, but all 3 of these guys, I think I have a little bit lower than most people.
The vibes do feel a little off in Houston going into the season, but where the vibes are good is Philadelphia. Now, we can talk about Saquon Barkley all day long, but I want to talk about his backup, Will Shipley, another number 28. Should he be on more fantasy radars?
Absolutely. And I don't understand this one. Like the Eagles made it pretty clear throughout the offseason that they love this guy, whether it was the coaching staff, whether it was Howie Roseman. They were all talking up Shipley. They really, really like him as a player. I think they think he could take maybe some touches away from Barkley during the season, but his ultimate fantasy value is if something happens to Saquon Barkley. I know A.J. Dillon's on the roster then. I think people saw that name and just assumed that A.J. Dillon would factor in somehow. And let's face it, if Barkley does go down, it's not just going to be the Will Shipley show, but he is going to be the lead back there, and he has the skills to put up some numbers behind that offensive line in that offense. I mean, you look at the preseason, right? He rushed for 48 yards on 7 carries. He added a 4-yard catch in the opener in the preseason. And then after that, they just shut him down. They didn't even play him the rest of the preseason. They know what they have there. Just in case Barkley goes down, they want to make sure that their top backup is healthy as well. And it's interesting because this year with Barkley, I feel like I've gotten way more shares of him than I expected to get. He falls to like the mid-first round often. I think that's because people are very concerned about that workload from last year. But I pointed out on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast recently, Adam Hutchinson of Football Guys, a very good injury analyst, he took a look at this. He did a study, and the overall RB population, so all running backs, have a 27% chance of playing a full season. The 300 touch club, and we're going to put Barkley in that, even though he was well over that, their number only falls to 23%. So just a 4% difference there, which is something, but it's just a slight difference, right? I think you can factor that in, but it's not the reason why you want to pass on a guy entirely. I don't think Barkley has that much more of a chance of getting hurt than most running backs. So I'm not worried about him. I'm drafting him everywhere. But Shipley, like you bring up, he's going so late in drafts. People aren't looking at him the way that they look at some of these other top backups, and yet they should. So take advantage. Everybody should be out there trying to get him.
All right, let's have a little bit of fun. Okay, last question for you. You don't have to be an analyst too. You can just be just a joyful you. Your favorite fantasy player ever to wear number 28 in honor of today is?
I mean, this is a tough one. It's not like I'm memorizing. I memorize the numbers. I memorize the stats. I'm not memorizing the jersey numbers. But there is one guy that comes to mind here, and it's Chris Johnson on the Titans. And maybe this is me just, picking and choosing, but I feel like he was one of like the first fantasy calls that I made that like I absolutely hit on. And it wasn't just the prospect profile coming out. It was the rumblings that we heard coming out of offseason practices for him, how good he looked, how explosive he was, how much their team liked him. And I mean, even I didn't predict that it was his second season when he went over 2,000 yards. Like, what a phenomenal player. But he was the kind of guy that fantasy should be fun. And he was so fun to watch. And it kind of reminds me of somebody else in the AFC South this year, Travis Hunter, who nobody's really talking about right now because he has the shoulder injury, hasn't played much in the preseason. I think if he was out there, he'd be making plays. He'd be getting a lot of hype. His ADP would be getting pushed up. But he is such a fun player. And sometimes these players come along that just kind of change the way we look at the NFL. I think Chris Johnson was one of those. I think Travis Hunter is going to be one of those. So I highly recommend. You want to have fun. We want to find every edge we can in fantasy every year, but make sure you're having fun along the way and taking players that you really like. And I think if you draft Travis Hunter this year, you're going to be very happy with him on your fantasy team.
Justin, you're always welcome to come back. Feel free to wear a tux next time. We appreciate you hanging out with us as always. Guys, one more time for you guys at home, scan the QR code you see on your screen. You can get Yahoo Fantasy Plus for 28% off. Thanks for the time, Justin. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, next up, Cooper DeJean. We're going to talk everything from breakfast pizzas to Vic Fangio's defense. Check it out next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
What was it like that next season coming back after the Super Bowl, going into it? Did you feel like you had that extra target on your back against teams you were playing against? Or?
For sure, yeah. And, we didn't play the Patriots that year, but we played them the following year. Yeah. And that one, there was more juice to it. Yeah. And you guys will you guys will play KC early this season. 2, 3. Yeah. It is going to be a very fun environment to play a football game. And it's going to feel like a playoff. All off season, and we dealt with this in 2018. Everybody is looking at your film to try and replicate what you guys had success with and try to stop the things that you guys did well. And you have a lot more attention all off season on every coach in the NFL. All the brightest minds are going to be trying to figure things out that you guys did well. Players are going to be watching tape. So you're getting more attention on everything you've been doing. Yeah. So it's going to feel different. You're going to get every team's best shot. Yeah. But listen, what else do you want, right? That's the way.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, that's right.
I like it.
We're joined now by Philadelphia Eagles cornerback Cooper DeJean, who's here on behalf of Casey's. Cooper, we just watched a clip of you with Jason Kelce. That's obviously your exciting Mike's podcast with you and Reed Blankenship, which is, by the way, spectacular. We'll start with a little Kelce, though, because as we record this, Kelce's brother's in the news for engagement. Where are we on the Taylor Swift Kelce engagement, brother?
I was just informed on that, actually. 15 minutes ago, probably. So that's I'm sure that's going to be all over the place for the next couple of days. Congrats to them.
When you are friends with his brother, does that get you Taylor Swift tickets? How does that work? Are we cautious about asking for the freebies, or do we just roll straight for it?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna ask. I don't know if that's how that works. I don't think I'm gonna find out either. So.
That's amazing. Well, instead of talking about Taylor Swift, let's talk a little bit about football. I think it's wild because a year ago right now, you're trying to figure out how to be a pro in the NFL, right? And now a year as you sit today, you're trying to figure out how to defend a Super Bowl championship. How much different does life feel today than it did a year ago?
Yeah, it's a little different. Obviously, feel a little more settled in and more at home now, and with a year under my belt, and obviously, getting to stay in the same defense another year, not having to learn a new defense is also great. So just and trying to be more of a leader this year as we go into my second year, and we start this new journey over again. After last season, having put that behind us now, and I think everybody's excited to start this new journey. The 2025 football season, and get back to work.
You talk about that defense, Vic Fangio. We made a big deal about Vic Fangio coming over as a coordinator. How long did it take you to sort of get your footing in that defensive scheme?
Yeah, it took me a little bit. Anytime you're trying to learn a new defense, it takes a little bit to learn and get comfortable playing the different techniques and different coverages that the defense brings. But he's done a great job of coaching it and teaching it. Which has been awesome to be able to learn from him. We have a lot lot of defensive group meetings, which is cool to see. You're able to understand everybody's role in the defense, and he does a good job of holding people accountable when they're not doing their job, and that's cool to see. He's a really old school coach, which I love. He coaches us hard and expects the best out of us each and every day, whether it's practice or game.
I'm going to ask you to give me a master class in a quick answer, which is impossible. But what makes the defense so different?
I think it's just the way we work together and we're able to play off of each other within the defense, which has been really cool to see, and how once everybody gets comfortable, got comfortable in our defense, after that bye week. It seemed like everything just started to click, and we started playing so well together. Everybody was playing off of each other. I think a good picture of that is that pick six. You see guys just matching their coverage, and me playing off of Zach Bond and able to fall back inside and make that interception. But that doesn't happen without our defensive line getting those 2 sacks, in the 2 previous plays, and then forcing them to do a rollout type pass, and I was able to step in front of it. So I think it's just the way our guys play off of each other, and we're so well connected within our defense. It's awesome.
From the Super Bowl parade to eating cheesesteaks, it feels like you've really become part of the city of Philadelphia. Like the fans have embraced you. What has that meant to you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. Just to, be connected to the people in this city, and to see their love, for Eagles football has been awesome. To go out and do different things around the city, connect with the fans. It's great, but now it's a whole new season, and these fans are going to be expecting a lot, so you gotta be ready for this new season and bring your A game, because they're gonna hold you accountable each and every week, which is something I love, about being here in Philadelphia.
I love the fact that you and Reed started the podcast Exciting Mikes, based in part at least on the cultural phenomenon of the nickname Exciting Whites. Like, is there a part, like, what was that adjustment like for everybody catching on to that culturally as a phenomenon for you?
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy, to be honest. I didn't know how it'd be, taken, by everybody. But it's been pretty cool to see, everybody loving it. It was actually 2 kids I met in the mall, who told me they had these T-shirts, and they had sent them to me and Reed, and we decided to wear them to a game, and it kind of just blew up from there. And then obviously getting to start our podcast together, Exciting Mikes, has been awesome too. It's allowed us to get to know some of our teammates off the field, and have some good conversations. I think it's made our relationship together even better as well.
Week 1, you get a division rival with the Cowboys. You guys are Super Bowl champions. It's Thursday Night Football. There's all of these different elements. How do you block all of that out? How do you guys prep for that game?
Yeah, I think it's how we started this offseason, with putting last year behind us, and understanding this is going to be a new year, a new journey. So just preparing each week, like we know how, and understand things are going to be different, than they were last year. That's why you have to put last year behind yourself, and going in and preparing each and every week, like how. Obviously the Cowboys got some good weapons. They got Dak healthy, so it'll be a good challenge, for us, and I'm excited to get back out there and get the season rolling.
What was the moment in your rookie year where you finally got to just step back, look around, and soak in, like, hey, for all the work, all the years, all the sacrifice, like, I made it?
I don't know if I really sat back and took it all in until probably the parade. The parade was cool. It's kind of hard to grasp and understand, what winning a Super Bowl is like. Especially when you're in it and you're a part of the team. And you get that celebration, and then it's almost like it's on the next season. And you got new things to get better at and continue to grow as a player, and as a person. But I think it was really the parade. Was really when it sunk in, that we had won it. And that parade was wild too.
All right, so you obviously played your college ball at Iowa. Always love talking to guys about Saturdays. Like, who are you trash talking? Like, when it comes this year, like, who in the locker room you look around, you're like, look out, Iowa football.
Anybody who played at Nebraska. I don't know if we have any. We got a couple guys that played at Nebraska. I don't think we have any guys that played at Iowa State. But I will defend Iowa till the day that I die, probably. So anybody who tries to talk trash about Iowa football in the locker room, just know I'm coming full speed ahead and to defend them in every way possible. But I'm excited to watch the guys this season. It'll be fun. Some of the young guys who were freshmen when I was there get their chance now, so it'll be cool to watch them. New quarterback, obviously, second year in the new offense. It'll be fun to watch them.
You were there at the same time as Caitlin. What was it like watching that phenomenon up close and personal?
That was crazy. Just being able to watch her do her thing and play the game the way that she does is awesome, and what she's done for women's basketball and women's sports in general, has been crazy. There'd be people lined up outside of Carver Hawkeye Arena, which is where they play their games. It was probably like 4 or 5 hours before the game, just to get in so they could watch warm-ups, or get to their seats to see whatever. I don't even know what goes on, 4 hours before tip. But Iowa's embraced her, and she's been great for the state and for really everybody in women's sports.
So you went to Iowa. You're from Iowa. You're wearing the Casey's Pizza hoodie of Iowa. Over 500 Casey's in Iowa. Tell everybody what you're up to at Casey's and kind of what your love of them comes from.
Yeah, it's a cool partnership for me. Just growing up in Iowa, Casey's being a huge part of really the whole Midwest. I went to Casey's, when I was in high school, probably 5 times a week, at least, just to, whether you're getting snacks before school, getting some breakfast pizza before school, whatever it may be. I was always going to Casey's to see what they had, and it's a really cool partnership for me, just because I've grown up going there, and if you're looking to tailgate for a noon kickoff this year, Casey's is the place to go, for your breakfast pizza to get you ready to roll for those noon kickoffs. You got those early morning tailgates. All you got to do is pop into Casey's, grab you some breakfast pizza. You'll be ready to go.
What's on the perfect breakfast pizza, brother?
I'm a pretty plain guy when it comes to my pizza toppings. My favorite's the sausage, egg, and cheese. That's probably my go-to breakfast pizza. But they don't just, they got a lot of different pizzas. They got, supreme, they got cheese, pepperoni. It's hard to get a bad pizza when you go to Casey's. It's always fresh and ready to go, which is what I love.
Well, what I know is Casey's is home of the official pizza noon kickoffs, which if you love Big Ten football, you'll see plenty of. My friend, good luck this season. Congratulations on the Super Bowl championship you already have. Can't wait to watch you kick butt this season. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let's keep that conversation going. What are the realistic expectations for this Eagles defense? We'll answer that next on Yahoo Sports Daily. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Just had the chance to talk to Cooper DeJean about this Eagles defense. And Caroline, it's interesting to me because it's not that long ago that the Eagles felt like they were in disarray, right? Like Nick Sirianni's job was in jeopardy and they were having closed-door meetings and is everybody getting fired? And then all of a sudden, new coordinators come in yet again, and this time the new coordinators work. And so now it's like, in Vic we trust, because this Eagles defense looked like it turned such a massive corner. Does that sustain through this year, though?
It's a very fair question. And look, I think it's fair to expect at least a little bit of regression from any Super Bowl contender. That doesn't mean that you're going to go from first to worst, but I think there is at least, it's fair to expect a little bit of regression. Now, I will say this. And Vic Fangio, we trust. Like, he has deserved that benefit of the doubt. He has earned that kind of respect that, like, look, whatever he says, cool, good with me. I trust him. Here's my thing, though, my concern about the Eagles defense and what I think could be maybe the root or the cause of slight regression from this defense. You lose Josh Sweat. And you lose Milton Williams. Josh Sweat now with the Arizona Cardinals, Milton Williams now with the New England Patriots. That was your first and third leading sacker. You lose 13 sacks alone in losing those two this past offseason. So they draft Jahad Campbell in the first round out of Alabama. I think that's a fantastic pick. I love Jahad Campbell. But can he step in and replace the production that you lost? Look, and the Eagles signed Azeez Ojulari this past offseason. Love what he did with the New York Giants. But again, is he able to step in and recreate the production that the Eagles have lost? Look, again, and Vic Fangio, we trust, but I think there's at least, it's fair to have at least a little bit of pause of can they replace that production? Now, you still have Nolan Smith. You still have Jalen Carter. You still have Zach Bond. Like, there's still so many pivotal and foundational pieces on this Eagles defense, but I don't think that it can be understated what they are losing in the production of losing Josh Sweat.
So I think you're absolutely spot on with Josh, but I will also say that part of the way this defense is built right now with the strengths is just the opposite of what we're used to. We're used to edge rushers taking so much attention that they hope, the defensive hope strategy hopes that creates some opportunity for guys in the middle, one-on-one you can take advantage of. I think the Eagles are sort of built opposite of that. They require so much attention up the gut because they have the best defensive tackle room in the entire NFL. Because of that depth right there, I think it sort of forces everybody to allocate resources to making sure you're keeping quarterbacks' feet clean, which means you get more one-on-one opportunities for edge rushers in general. That's not to say that it's easy to replace the sack production that they'd have to replace. But part of the reason that it's in Vic we trust for me is because at all three levels on the defensive side of the ball, they're incredible. And one thing Cooper talked about was understanding the assignments. Like, he's able to get that pick six because two other people did their jobs properly. Like, there is a little element of between coaching, between just the absolute massive matchup issue that anybody has up the middle against this defense. I still think it creates tremendous opportunity. And it feels like at some point the Eagles just have gotten benefit of the doubt from me. Like, I'm the first to admit that because of Howie Roseman's greatness, because of Vic Fangio's greatness. Like, all Nick Sirianni has to do as a head coach is not screw this thing up, and they're still a 10 to 12 win team, which puts them right squarely back in the Super Bowl conversation.
I think they absolutely are still in the Super Bowl conversation. I think the Eagles have proven that you don't have to have that certified elite quarterback to be a Super Bowl contender or a Super Bowl champion. And that's no disrespect to Jalen Hurts in the slightest, but I don't think that Jalen Hurts is the kind of quarterback that's going to be able to consistently, on a consistent basis, elevate his team. Like, if you put, Jalen Hurts on that 2023 Chiefs roster, I do not think that they're Super Bowl champions. But what the Eagles have done, though, is created such a healthy ecosystem around the quarterback that he doesn't have to be that guy on a consistent basis. But what that does mean, though, is all of these pieces and parts have to fit together perfectly. So that did happen for the Eagles this past season. With the amount of talent on this roster, I feel confident that they're able to recreate that. But it is such a well-oiled machine that if one piece is misplaced in that well-oiled machine, then what is this Eagles team? I still have so much confidence in this team, in this roster, in this coaching staff.
Yeah, I have confidence, but also it's fair to say that most of the massive contenders in the NFC have questions. We'll continue to answer those questions all week. Join us tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, to hang out with more Yahoo Sports Daily. Thanks for watching.